Damn, this nigga ugly.
At the beginning of 2025, I wrote up a lengthy script about the Xbox brand. Originally, this video was supposed to be a comprehensive investigation into all of the modern decisions leading up to what we conceptualize Xbox as today. I recorded my original take near the beginning of 2025, and I don't know what happened. Something happened with the files, man. It made me angry, man. But needless to say, a lot of things have transpired with the Xbox brand within the past few years. We are currently witnessing sort of a watershed moment in video game history, and it can't be denied at this point. Their identity has evolved a great deal over the course of, what would you say, a decade? And virtually all that time was spent attempting to regain the mind share and market share they boasted during the 360 era. The momentum of what was ultimately considered to be Microsoft's prime in console gaming basically became undone once they revealed the Xbox One. And ever since then, they just never meaningfully recovered the mojo that firmly established them on the gaming landscape. And so Microsoft, made various power moves to strengthen the green ship, attempting to steer it in a more advantageous direction, with services like Game Pass, a way too good to be true gaming subscription service that housed day-and-date Microsoft Xbox IP alongside numerous third-party titles ranging from the colossal AAA to the itty-bitty indie. Over $70 billion dues was spent acquiring multiple studios and publishers in a grand effort to compete against the big player in the high-end console market. Let us compete, they said. To put Microsoft's insane buying spree into perspective, their acquisition of ZeniMax Media alone is worth more than what Disney ponied up for Lucasfilm. To the vigilant gamer locked into these gaming topics, especially during the dawn of the 9th generation of consoles, it really did appear that Microsoft was on a mission to completely undercut PlayStation's vast dominance in gaming by, attempting to spend competitors out of business, pushing exclusives on Microsoft-supported devices, overwhelming the competition by absorbing up all the biggest IP in hopes to universally proselytize consumers into the ecosystem, leaving their competitors out to dry and fade away into irrelevancy. Or so it seemed. Fast forward to now, the flagship franchises that were once differentiators and marketing beats for the Xbox brand, particularly on the console side of things, have now been established on what was once considered to be its competitor. The reasons for this are quite simple. Their influence and market share has, in my estimation, perhaps objectively, deteriorated to the point where no competitive strategy could ever be justified, and the reasons for this, I believe, are threefold. Number one, acquisitions. Microsoft accumulated some of the biggest publishers and devs in gaming, which, as anyone would expect, comes with a hefty bill. Microsoft is in ownership of some of the biggest worldwide IP Earlier in this video, I mentioned that the moves Microsoft made almost seemed as if this was their intention all along, gobbling up all the IP, publishers, and studios to become the ultimate publisher, because they had to have known what they were ultimately getting into. Very reputable journalist Jason Schreier pointed out that there was increased pressure internally at Microsoft to recoup acquisition costs, so Microsoft, being the self-admitted low share player in the console market they were, really needed some massive returns. Satya Nadella popped out and declared they had a golden opportunity to become the biggest publisher on PlayStation, and so they did. Number two, and this basically ties in with number one, Game Pass. Game Pass is without a doubt one of the best gaming subscriptions, period. I remember 7 years ago when I was really getting into the hobby of gaming and seeing that $1 deal, $1 for a vast evolving library of games, first and third party titles on there, day and date. That was one hell of an attractive deal. But then it really got me thinking, how the hell is any of this sustainable? Because I even remember seeing Microsoft's reward system and noticing habitually stacking up points could even get you a month of Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken. I was like, dog, there's no way. There has to be a trade-off somewhere because this is all way too good to be true. Then it hit me like Diddy in that one hotel lobby. Game Pass is market disruptive. I mean, how could it not be? There's always segments every year where Game Pass really hits a stride, funneling multiple new titles, first and third party alike, day one into the service. Ever since this became the norm for Game Pass, it's substantially impacted, by and large, the way the consumers engage with the Xbox ecosystem. Why would someone purchase a game day one when they could simply just get it on Game Pass? For consumers, it's an undeniable boom, but for some developers, it might be kind of a mixed bag. Sure, they might get a fat ass check to release their game into Game Pass day one, but that has also shown us that these games could lose up to 80% in premium game sales. Well, the first party Xbox games in particular being featured on the service instantly upon release is the part that gives a lot of people, including myself, hella whiplash, especially now considering that Microsoft now owns some of the largest publishers and developers in gaming. Just imagine the cost of first party development they now have to shoulder because they've accumulated so much. Take Call of Duty from Activision Blizzard, for instance. Since 2015, the cost to develop the franchise exponentially increased with each game. Black Ops Cold War in 2020 alone reportedly cost around $700 million to make. I'm betting that new COD games easily exceed $1 billion in production, or at the very least, the costs are dangerously close to it. This one single IP requires mountains of investment. Doesn't include other first-party Xbox experiences Microsoft has to fund, like Fable, Gears of War, E-Day, Doom, The Elder Scrolls, etc. Knowing the current subscription model Xbox has fixed in place, I asked the question, how is any of that sustainable? Or I guess a better question to ask is, if sustainable, how could it continue to be in the long run? Game subservices in general are barely growing as is. In fact, according to analysts, spending has grown only 1% year over year. These ballooning costs from legacy studios and gigantic publishers they inherited through spending almost $100 billion need to be recouped. It's a smacking ass deal though. Number 3. Consoles. It's no secret that these niggas, at least compared to the competition, have trouble selling consoles. I mentioned earlier how the generation of the Xbox One commenced the waning of their mind share and market share after the triumphant 360 era. It was at a time where Sony were in such a weakened state with the PS3 too. Nigga, they were making negative profits. It's crazy how they were able to crawl out of that. Leaders in the Xbox division at the time, like Peter Moore, led an aggressive Xbox console strategy in which it cultivated relationships with third-party publishers and studios to create experiences that would ultimately differentiate themselves from the PS3. The investment into Xbox Live revolutionized online console gaming and arguably was the rising tide that lifted all boats. Then the Xbox One came along, which is what a lot of people point to as the commencing of Xbox's nadir from a console perspective, particularly during its launch cycle, which seemingly activated a domino effect of questionable decisions that just kinda Thanos snapped any semblance of major positive momentum for the console. Yeah, they ain't necessarily doing the hottest. So where did they go from there? They were almost religiously communicating to consumers that their own console was not required to play their games. In bold lettering, their strategy was to go beyond the console, which was hitting record lows at that point. They needed to find growth somewhere. Some of you in the audience might be unironically asking the question, are selling consoles really that important to a console gaming brand? The truth of the matter is, one of the biggest reasons that justifies Sony, Microsoft's, and to a lesser extent, Nintendo's desire to even create hardware for the masses is due to a very simple concept: the storefront. Ever wonder how Valve is making the most money they've ever made despite the fact they don't really develop games anymore? That's because of Steam. You know, the main avenue through which PC gamers purchase games, DLC, and microtransactions. This same system is one that undergirds every console gaming platform. The devices serve as an access point for publishers, developers, and the platform holders themselves to be able to generate large amounts of revenue. Traditionally, consoles are sold at a loss until the ball gets rolling fast enough to the point they become profitable via a multitude of factors. Xbox apparently never got their consoles to a point of profitability, and since the generation of the 360, they've been selling worse and worse. Despite this, they've reached record highs in revenue, and a lot of that is owed to their multi-platform business model and acquisitions, because remember, they now own some of the biggest publishers ever whose games are far more popular on other platforms, not their own. Every screen is an Xbox. This was the vision for the brand even before fine-ass Sarah Bond, whose bathwater I'd love to drink, got promoted to CEO of Xbox, as well as Phil Spencer to CEO of Microsoft Gaming. The campaign was literally bar for bar a culmination of everything that's been constructed for the ecosystem up until that point. Super consumer friendly programs like Xbox Play Anywhere, the cloud, PC, etc. Sure, it might have massively diluted the identity of the Xbox console with virtually no differentiating qualities to it, but that was already the trajectory of the brand from a console perspective. The signs were already there, so you can imagine my shock when the now discontinued "This is an Xbox" ad got pilloried online. This was always the agenda, but I get it though. Fast forward to now. Phil Spencer retired. Sarah Bond resigned. Matt Booty promoted to Chief Content Officer, and boy do they have a lot of content in the pipeline. But peep this for a second. Isn't it kind of funny how around the time Microsoft shuttered the "This is an Xbox" thing, both Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer announced their departures simultaneously? It's not exactly clear to me that it was just a mere coinky-dink, because at that moment in time, the Xbox brand wasn't perceived in the brightest of lights, especially after they significantly jacked up the price of Game Pass, among other things. Sarah Bond carried the torch until her departure, maintaining a lot of the messaging that was being echoed by the platform she was representing. She doubled down with it, making big claims like exclusives are antiquated, as Halo was being revealed to launch day and date on PlayStation, and her partner declaring that their biggest competition was actually TikTok. Needless to say, the core Xbox console audience that wanted a more competitive Xbox weren't too pleased, because apparently they didn't get the memo before this. This led to a weird sort of throwing under the bus of Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer, accusing them of running Xbox of having a unique identity into the ground. Bond bore the brunt of a lot of this criticism, which generally kind of infuriated me, because a lot of what she did was just continuing to shepherd Xbox into the overarching goal of being everywhere, just like Phil Spencer before or after her. A lot of commentators have a habit of simplifying the strategic decisions made, simply just boiling them down to Bond did this, Spencer did this, and while they might have spearheaded certain ideas for the Xbox brand that would later prove to be an absolute albatross, you kinda have to look at the complete picture of leadership from top to bottom. Who are they accountable to for growth and sustainability? The chief executive officer of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, spearheaded a lot of the brand messaging from his subordinates. Our biggest competitor is TikTok. We want to make a console PC hybrid, with the official teasing of Project Helix. And after Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond's departures, Xbox introduced a new face to lead the Xbox division, Asha mother flippin' Sharma. In my eyes, her introduction into the space read something like a clean slate for the brand leading up to the next generation. A number of positive things were done since her arrival, like the decrease in Game Pass price, and caveat, still more expensive than what it was prior to the increase. On top of that, removing the guarantee that Call of Duty, a first-party IP, would launch day and date, proving that it wouldn't be sustainable if it did, and the changing from Xbox to Xbox.
What the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
A renewed focus on the console while leaning more into PC, while wanting to break down hardware barriers and meeting players where they are. That sounds very familiar. In her first 60 days, Asha Sharma received mountains of praise for decisions I personally think were in talks months before she arrived, such as the Game Pass price decrease. I do not think that decision was made on a whim. From the moment she took the reins, big conversations about a more competitive Xbox from the console perspective started to rage on again, from clamoring for a return to form on exclusivity to their upcoming next generation hardware. Now, I'm open to being wrong, but personally, I do not think there's any universe where they return to a hardware-centric strategy in which their main goal is to take away market share from big players like PlayStation and Nintendo, buy our platform while they want to, again, break down hardware barriers. I just don't think Xbox, nay, Microsoft, cares much where you access their content and services. It's gotten to the point that for their game showcases, not only do they show competing platforms for their first party games they plan to ship there, but also for third party games they have absolutely no hand in whatsoever. If you watch the way Xbox moves for any more than like 2 seconds, you'll recognize that they're focused on bringing the Xbox experience to consumers rather than the other way around. Asha Sharma says they're going to reevaluate the approach to exclusivity, but budging on the current strategy they have, knowing the issues they're facing, just seems like a pipe dream. Let's play a thought exercise here for a moment. Imagine Microsoft releases the Xbox Helix, a premium console PC hybrid, which indicates to me that it's going to be more of an open platform. I don't think they're going to sell that at a loss, especially understanding that theoretically this thing is going to have access to multiple digital storefronts. Do you guys really think Microsoft is going to make their future titles exclusive to this thing? Where would they make it exclusive to? The Microsoft Store and Steam, like they've been known for doing, or just the Microsoft Store? And if they do recontinue the strategy of simply just keeping their games exclusive to their upcoming console, which is a hybrid console PC and PC, they would literally just be starting from square -1. It's quite literally the most nonsensical strategy I've ever heard of. I've observed this sort of thinking in commentary from other content creators, and it just makes no sense to me. Some people seem to think they're going to take on Valve in some OS war, and if they are, good luck to them. What would be the incentive to buy into a Helix when the Steam frame exists? That is, if they continue to publish the titles on Steam day one. To me, it seems clear that the hankering for Xbox to compete in a traditional way is outdated and incongruous to what their philosophy is today. I think they're more concerned about having a cascade of access points from many hardware configurations and shifting their business to being a gigantic third-party publisher, moving on from the console platform war they've already admitted they lost. But that's just me. What do you guys think in the comments below? No matter where you guys stand, the overall business of Xbox is positioned for a strong, albeit weird, future. This video was supposed to be out a year ago. Holy shit.